Hey guys, I totally get now why there's a lot of videos from Christians who are tired of certain things, of other Christians saying other things. I didn't realize it was such a thing. But since I put my gospel message out there, there's been some other Christians who have commented privately on certain things. And they say that in sharing the gospel, one of them is saying that sharing the gospel, you have to do it this certain way. And this certain way was the way of their church, is the way of their doctrinal church. They had a leaflet of how they, as a church, would do it. Now, I have issues with that because in the Holy Bible, when people shared the gospel, they didn't just share the gospel in a way that is set in one standard. They followed the leading of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit wanted them to share the word in a certain way, because even if you have a set standard of sharing the gospel, it's not going to reach everybody. Not everybody's going to understand. And, I believe for me that the Holy Spirit wanted me to share the gospel in that way, because there are some other students sharing the gospel on the Global University where I shared it, where I was asked to share it. Last week, there was the girl who started with "Who is Jesus?" And so my topic that I chose, that I believe was important, was the law and the grace, which I believe the Holy Spirit led me to do, because that's a very big backlash in the community. That's just what I mean. It's just a very big topic. Anyway, so yes, and the other problem I also have with this very same church is that, they also teach that in their small groups that, you should be fearless as a Christian. You should be fearless. You should have no fear. You don't fear at all. You shouldn't feel sad at all. You shouldn't feel down at all. You shouldn't have all these feelings and emotions that are, yes, you are human, but you shouldn't have them, But if you look back at the Bible, what happened to King David? King David, he was afraid. He acted like a madman in front of the Philistines because he was afraid. He didn't want to die. Saul was after him, and he hid in the Philistines' camp, the Philistines that were the enemy of Israel, and he acted like a madman so they wouldn't kill him. He pretended he was crazy. His saliva was falling off his thing so they wouldn't kill him, And there's also Elijah, after he called down fire from heaven to prove that God is God. Yahweh is God. What did he do? He ran away. He was afraid of Jezebel, who said, "I'm going to kill him. Let's kill him. Let's kill Elijah." He ran and he was frightened. And where did God take him? God took him to a mountain to give him the Elijah prescription, which is what Elim Coventry calls it, Elijah prescription, which is, rest, sleep, food, eat, for his journey ahead, which is going to be, his journey ahead also shows the grace of God, because he went to a city where Jezebel herself came from, to a widow, to give her a blessing, to save her son from dying, and to give her unlimited food for the entire season. And that's from where Jezebel comes from. I mean, that's just grace right there, So it's just there's just a lot of things, People always have issues with you when you share the Bible as it is, because the Bible, because the devil doesn't want the Bible out there. He wants doctrines, he wants religion, and what does the Bible say about religion? God hates religion, There's no set standard of sharing the gospel, As Pastor Colin, my pastor, Pastor Colin Dye, who's, he did share his story of knowing the answer to certain questions to people who was asking him about his faith, about the Christian faith, and he was like, I don't know, because that's what he felt the Holy Spirit was leading him to do. He was being led by the Holy Spirit to say those things, and even after all the I don't knows, the couple decided to give their life to Christ, because they said, every time we've asked a Christian this, they've always had an answer, and that we thought of them as arrogant and proud. And yet this man who kept saying, I don't know, I'll get back to you, they were like, he's humble, he's different. And somehow the Holy Spirit spoke to them through his I don't knows, and they gave their life to Christ. You know, it's not about a standard of sharing the gospel. It's just about sharing the gospel the way the Holy Spirit wants you to share the gospel. And I can see now why there's a lot of Christian videos out there that's just so angry. You know, they're like, oh, you know, da 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 da. And I'm always thinking, why are they so angry? Why are they so upset? And, you know, I mean, this was the first time I shared the gospel in that way. And so to receive some commentaries from other Christians, it's quite interesting. Quite interesting. I must say, though, that I've had the best teacher. It's not just the Holy Spirit. I mean, of course it is the Holy Spirit, but I've had a really best teacher personally, and I really like the way that he shared his sermons, because, you know, it was very biblical, just biblical. And he did it that way too. Like, he would take an entire chapter and go verse by verse, but he didn't let on that he was going verse by verse. It was when he was teaching it that and when I went home after the service, I looked up the Bible chapter that he was talking about, and I saw how he was going verse by verse, and he expounded every verse, and I was amazed. I was like, wow, everything he said was in the Bible, was in this chapter. There was nothing that he said that wasn't true, because it was in the Bible. And, you know, that just slaps you in the face. So I guess everybody's been slapped then. Anyway, so yes, and there were a lot of instances where sorry there were a lot of instances where people, you know, in the Bible, where they share the gospel in different chapters, following each other, and it's all done in different ways. You know, when Jesus healed people's eyes, if you go through that process of going through all the New Testament, of watching Jesus or reading about Jesus healing people's eyes, he never did it in a set standard. He always did it differently. One, he spit mud, he spit in his hands, spit in the mud, and he put it on the person's eyes. Another person, he didn't need to touch the man. He just said, your faith has made you well. You know, there was nothing about that. You know, another one, he had to pray for the man twice to have his eyes healed. Like, yeah, there was no set standard, guys. Come on. You don't need a set standard. If you have the Holy Spirit, there's no set standard. The only set standard is to obey the voice of the Holy Spirit. And that's it. That is it. It is the Holy Spirit's work that draws all people